Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This week we're going to look at chapter 2 of the book. It's entitled Be Yourself. And the great leader from history is Abraham Lincoln. So as I studied Abraham Lincoln, I come to find that Lincoln was very different from politicians of his day. Politicians of his day seemed to be somewhat elitist. They had formal, polished speeches and they wore their fancy suits. And most average people felt like they were being talked down to. Well, along came Abraham Lincoln. When Lincoln spoke, he spoke plainly, he spoke with humor and stories and just homespun wisdom. And it really resonated with average folks. And Lincoln, one thing about Lincoln was he was authentic. You know, with Lincoln, what you see is what you get. And the politicians of that day, they made fun of Lincoln and they mocked him. But Lincoln didn't care because Lincoln was going to be Lincoln. And so in this chapter in the book, a lot of this chapter revolves around my first year of teaching. And as I got the teaching job here, I was surrounded by some really, really good teachers. And as I watched and observed them, I tried to copy everything they did. And it was a disaster. It was a total train wreck. And I got so discouraged, I almost threw in the towel my first year. I almost said, you know what, this teaching gig is not for me. And I think I'm going back to being a diesel mechanic. But I found that the more that I was myself, the better things went. So here's a snippet from chapter 2 in the book. Another thing my mentor excelled at was his demonstrations in the shop. His strong voice carried over the noise of the machines, HVAC systems, air hoses, keeping everyone's attention. When I tried the same thing, my voice was drowned out. By the end, I was hoarse. My students weren't really engaged. Once again, I felt discouraged. By Thanksgiving, I was seriously questioning whether teaching was for me. The harder I tried to be like my mentor, the worse things got. So there's a snippet from chapter 2 in the book. Next week, we'll look at chapter 3. Chapter 3 is entitled, What's Your Mortality Rate? And the famous person from history is Ronald Reagan. You may say that sounds a little twisted. What does Ronald Reagan have to do with mortality rate? I guess you have to tune in and see next week.